is our second to the last meeting of the year. We have something really fun and exciting planned next month, but that we will wait till the end. I have words. Swear I do. So for today, we are talking about third-party solutions. I think for the past 2 years, you've been hearing all about AEM and what AEM can do. Well, now we want to start something about what other solutions that can work both with AEM and with WordPress, and kind of share those resources with you. So today we're going to talk about Qualtrics, Formidable, and Nelnet. And for Qualtrics, we have Britton Woodman, who's the Service Manager for Learning Management at the Information and Technology Services and Teaching and Learning.
Our titles are very fluid.
I'm going to switch over.
I've only been with ITS for about 6 months now, but I've been working with Qualtrics for a lot longer than that. It is unquestionably the most robust credit card processing solution. No, I'm kidding. It's not a credit card product. That's later. Qualtrics is for surveys. Wake up, buddy. Okay, while my computer wakes up here, I'll tell you that, has anybody here worked with Qualtrics before? Are we all kind of new to it? Okay. I guess I should have sent out a survey before this, because I hate to give an intro to Qualtrics to a bunch of people who are already familiar with Qualtrics. Okay, cool. Well, Ross goes back even further than the rest of campus. I think they've been using it for about 10 years. In 2009, the health system got into it and said, hey, we want to start using Qualtrics too. And they said, well, why don't you just get a license for all of Ann Arbor? So that's what we did. It's been available to, on kind of a limited basis. You had to ask somebody in your unit to make you an account until about 2012. And then in 2012, we tied it in with single sign-on with web login. And now anybody can just sign in and get started from there. This is what the old Qualtrics console looks like. Just yesterday, they rolled out the new Qualtrics to us. If you've signed in any time since yesterday, you'll have a thing up in the corner saying, hey, come check out the new Qualtrics. If you hit this, it'll take you to the new interface. So I said, if you hit this, it'll take you to the new interface. Here we go. Wireless. It pops this up every time you switch to it too, which is a little bit annoying. But it's easy to click away from, and it won't ask you for that every time. It'll only pop that up if you keep switching back and forth, which we can all do for 90 days. Changes you make in the new environment won't go back to the old environment. But if you've got something you're trying to finish up over there, you've got 90 days before it moves over. You shouldn't lose any data, and in fact, you'll gain some new features. I wanted to take a minute to show you what has changed, and hopefully we'll bring new people on board too. There used to be a row of tabs up top here. I better stay near the mic, huh? Yeah. So there used to be a row of tabs up top here. They kind of got away from that skeuomorphic, make stuff look like real stuff, and went more towards a flat design like on your phone or in Google Docs or Canvas, similar services. So to make something new, you'd make it here. This project will only be visible to you, this name, so you can make whatever you want. Survey about baking. That's the sample I usually use in the workshops I teach to Europe in the fall. The folder is also just for your organization. If you have an existing survey already that either somebody's mailed to you or somebody else in your department shared out, you can bring that in from here, or you can bring in individual questions later. So, let's see. This is the basic Qualtrics interface when you're writing questions. Tip that to write a question here. You can make it, you can just type stuff out here. Like, see what it does is it looks at the kind of question you're asking and then tries to come up with the right kind of answers for it based on the question. In this case, it took the generic type to enter answer, and it came up with a set of 5 on a scale of yes to no. You can change that over here if it's not quite the right auto set of questions. But in this case, yes or no is definitely right, and we want to dial the number of choices down to 2. I kind of found this to be a yes or no question. You can add another question below that. What? I'm hitting return each time, except when I'm not. So that's 2 questions right there. I'm going to click over here to take out. You know what? I'm not going to take this out. I'm going to make this a fill in the blank in case they bought a croissant or something I didn't put an entry for. I'm going to hit allow text entry, and that'll bring that in there. Other. And then in the results, there will be an extra field for people who type something else, like, I don't know, croissant or Kugel. So those are a couple of multiple answer questions. You can also choose from a wide variety of other kinds of questions. Descriptive texts are just, usually like the slide at the beginning or the slide that explains the next set of questions. There's no like answer for those really. Graphics kind of the same way. Text entry questions, you kind of saw me turn one of the multiple choices into a text entry. This is the ever popular, do you have any other suggestions? There's a little grabber on here that lets us make this a bigger box. And over here, I can actually expand it in terms of number of lines. These all pretty much store the same way. The differences are purely aesthetic for the user, like what size text box they see on the screen indicates what size or how long they should make their response. But any of these sizes or any of these types can store an unlimited number of characters. The password one just makes everything show up in dots. Let's see. Validations let you, say, okay, you have to answer this question, or the softer, would you please answer this question? If you choose request, it'll say, hey, can you fill in something here, but it won't stop the respondent if they click forward. Force response will say, okay, you can't go any further unless you type something or make a choice. These validations down here let you specify how few number of characters or how many number of characters they type, things like that. So I'm going to add a question in the middle here I want to save. Do you have any other suggestions for last? Let's see. So you'll see this this particular question is it's related to the last one. So what I'm going to do now is set some logic on it so that it only appears if question 2, the person mentioned cake. So this will only appear, obviously, if the other person selected cake. If they chose something else, then it'll move on further in the thing. Let's see. So I wanted to give you a quick idea of just a couple of basic questions. It obviously goes a lot deeper than that. You can go into heat maps are a common favorite, where you put up an image and say, click where you'd expect to find this, and then when you get it back, you get a graphic like that one down there where you can see where everybody clicked. Hotspot's kind of the same thing, except you draw zones instead of just letting them click wherever. Let's see. I'm going to go back to one of my projects now and find something with some results so I can show you what a report looks like. Some of the surveys I have in here are left over from my previous career in the university library, which is where I first became familiar with Qualtrics. I was the brand administrator for the university library back when every department had a different instance of Qualtrics. At the same time we moved to single sign-on, we tried to get as many people as possible into the UMISH group so that people in different departments can just type each other's name and find each other to work on a survey together instead of, them having to contact me and me having to contact my counterpart in the other department to enable collaboration and get them together. So let me see. Here's some more skip logic, which is kind of like display logic, I guess, except it only skips forward in a particular survey project rather than letting you display additional questions. It's another example. Here is a one of those heat map, or not heat map, hotspot kind of questions. Let's see, this is a slider. Sliders will sometimes give different kinds of answers than another kind because if you start it down here, then the respondent really has to think about how they feel about something rather than just clicking yes or 10 at the beginning. Let's see. So we're going to go over to reports now, which is where you can take a look at the results. Oh yeah. So this is if you see this message here, results look a little bit different when you're in Insight Platform. For this interim 90-day period, the results are based on whoever owns the survey and whether they have switched over yet. But these are what your typical reports look like. The reports in the new Qualtrics are a little fancier. One of the neatest features about new reports is that, let me see, are there any graphs in this? Good. You know what? I'll add a graph. Let me find. Good one, a graph. So you see, I clicked add graph here and it made a prettier bar graph out of it, and you have many options for those graphs. When you export to a Microsoft Office type of document, this graph will be a Microsoft graph object as opposed to just a GIF like it used to be. So if you need to make changes to it outside of Qualtrics in a Microsoft product, that's a thing you can do now. Let's see, export. These icons here kind of give you an idea of what you can export to, PDF, the various Office formats. Looks like they were 2007, which tells you about how long the old Qualtrics worked for. Public reports will let you post it online. You can send somebody a link to it. You can make it so that it continually updates with the latest results. That's the link. And then you put this in an email and send it to your colleague that you want to monitor it. Since this isn't my survey, I'm not going to do that for real, though. Let's see. And if you just want to download the results raw, or you can either send it as a table or in SPSS format or comma separated values. You can open it up Excel or XML. User submitted files. There's a type of question that lets the user upload a file from their desktop to the survey. It's like, say you want them to take a picture of their screen or a picture of something near them, they can upload it there and you can download those separately. You can also look at individual responses by, let's see, click on view response. This shows the whole, one whole response. Up there is the IP address of the person who took it. Usually that's the only identifying information you get unless you either ask questions within the survey or set up a panel, which I'll show you real quick how to do here. Center distributions. So you can either use emails or personal links for that. They used to call it panels in old Qualtrics, and new Qualtrics is called a contact list now, but it's very similar. So you can either import a CSV of people's, identifying information. All you really need to set up a contact list is email addresses. And I'll pick on my brother. So Again, that's a thing you just see yourself. It'll come out from here. You can add some information in here if you want. You just sort of a, hey, if you shopped with us recently, would you please give us your thoughts? Let's see. As long as you don't change any of this stuff, at least the stuff in the brackets, it will create individual links if you send to a panel. The difference with individual links is you can track a person's individual responses if you want to, and you can also make it so they can't forward the link to somebody else and provide more data, unless you want them to. Personal links are very similar. Basically, you take a list of people to send it to, but instead of using their mailer, they'll just download a document full of links that you can paste into messages and send to the people, say if you want to send it from your own email account or through mail merge. Let's see. Social media things just let you make, a tweet with a link to the survey or a LinkedIn post or whatever have you. The offline app is a iPhone or Android app that if you're somewhere where you don't have Wi-Fi, you can download the survey to it, have people take it, and then when you get back online, it'll download the responses into your, or upload the responses into your Qualtrics survey. QR code, I'm sure people use QR codes. Purchase respondents is their way of, it's another value add service from Qualtrics where they have like people who take surveys that they pay, and then you can pay Qualtrics to give you a panel of, say, I don't know, airline pilots or pizza chefs or something to get their opinions on your screencast, I guess. So I think I'm willing to take questions now if you want. If you don't want to ask me a question here, you can call for help. We've got people there who know it, and if they don't know it, they'll forward it to me. You can also contact support@qualtrics.com or go to help and feedback up here and fill out their survey. There's also an 800 number on their website, which somehow I haven't memorized yet. I usually just email support@qualtrics.com. They usually get back to me within an hour, and they're super helpful. Anything else? Up there.
So I had a couple of questions.
Sure.
The first is, and maybe you covered it and I just didn't get it, but if I create a survey but I want some of my coworkers to also be able to view the results, is there a way to make it public to
Absolutely.
other people to see the whole back
No,
end?
you know what? I didn't go into that at all, and I can show you that real quick. So let's go back to the survey here. So if you just want to show people what it's going to look like, you can send them this preview link up here. This lets you walk through it. It counts the responses as preview responses, so you don't necessarily include it into your data set. The neat thing about it is it'll show you what it looks like on the phone right next to. If you want to actually work on a project with other people, they hide a bunch of stuff in this menu here. And edit survey is just the same as clicking on it. Preview survey is just the same as that link I showed you a minute ago. Translate survey uses Google Translate. Let's see, where is Share Project? It used to be called Collaborate in old Qualtrics, but now it's called Share. And here is where I would add, say, let's see, I'll add my other service manager to help me out with this. Here I can give her permission to edit the questions or add stuff to it. If, say, you just want to show other people the results, you can add that in here. In here they can actually edit responses too. You can make this as granular as you want. If you just click up here, it'll assume everything by default. You can give people permission to go ahead and launch the survey for you. That's activate, deactivate. Copy will let them make their own copy of the survey, which is useful if you've done a successful one and somebody else wants to do it and you just want to say, here, use my questions. You can also upload them to the library, and then distribute actually lets you get the links or send to a panel. And as you can see, you can give people as many or as few of these permissions as you want, or just take them off entirely.
And is there a way to be notified when new responses come in?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I'll show you that real quick. They had a bunch more things in tools. I go through all this in a seminar that usually takes about an hour. They told me about 15 to 20 minutes. I didn't want to overwhelm anybody here. But that stuff is under triggers. So here you can set it up so that you or your manager, one of your colleagues, will get a message as soon as the survey is completed. You can actually include the responses in there if you want. And you can set up another one of these so several people get that message. And the other option there under triggers was contact list triggers, which will actually add somebody to a contact list if, you know, if you start out anonymous and you want to ask them follow-up questions, you can say, hey, what's your name and email address? Can we follow up with another one? We'll give you a coupon or something. And then you can add that in here.
And can you pre-fill out a survey for someone and have them correct info that's right or wrong? I'm thinking about an annual registration I do. Right now I do it in Google Forms and I can pre-populate it and send them the link to make changes. Is there a
Right.
way to do that in Qualtrics?
Yeah, if you set it up in the contact list, you can, they call it embedded data, but you can preset values in surveys. I would be glad to work on you with that some more, probably after the meeting.
Is there a back-end way to get to the data? In other words, we have websites that I want to link email addresses with the results without having to manually export the data.
Yeah, we do have the API.
Right now, but yeah,
Mhm.
there's an API to do
Yep.
that. Okay.
There's one more behind.
So I think you covered this, but is there not a way to just have the survey automatically capture their unique? or
There
their
is a
email?
way.
Okay.
We can
And
set
then
that
it
up in
tells
survey
them
flow.
that
Yep.
it's going to happen like in forms?
Mhm.
Okay.
What about ownership of these forms? Is there a group ownership? Like for the math department, they've got a bunch
There's
of
the
forms
trouble.
and student services.
That's
And
something where,
They're all doing it in Google Forms, and each one owns the form under his or her unique name. They can share it, but there's no group ownership.
that's
And we
a
need,
funny
and we
thing.
need to set that up. I just wondered if that was possible here.
It used to be. They actually removed that function last winter, and when I visited them in February, I told everybody with a Qualtrics badge that group ownership has to come back. So they assured us they're working on something. I know some department administrators have created like generic accounts to own the surveys for the department. I know it's a problem because a lot of researchers come and go, and it's crazy to have one person own everything.
This isn't a question, it's just a comment on Vanessa's comment about registration forms. We use Qualtrics for training registration. So when you signed up for AEM training, or if you sign up for AEM training, it's not it is a survey in a way, but it's another use. If you have a conference or something coming up, you can create a form for people just to register, and you get a list of people who have signed up. So there are multiple uses for Qualtrics beyond just the survey. So it's a great tool.
Thank you.
So how about the address that sends the survey? Like, does that always have to come from me? Or I work with a couple different departments, so can I send things from like 5 or 6 different email
Yeah.
addresses?
Yeah, by default, it always comes from a Qualtrics address. Allegedly, there's a way to set it up to come from a UMISH address, but we have to get the host master involved, or mail routing. You can set a reply to whatever you want. So if the person tries to respond to it, it'll go back to the address you specify, and it'll show up as reply to in the headers.
Any other questions? Okay, and Britton, you'll hang out
Yeah,
till the end,
absolutely.
and if so, if anybody has more personal or more technical questions, he'll be there. We're just going to do a quick swap of laptops. Yep. So the next.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. made this, I'm going to show it. We have Jessica Walking, web content coordinator, with the web service team here, and she'll be talking about Formidable and Nelnet, which are third-party solutions that work well with WordPress. And this is for. Okay.
I don't have the right connection for my MacBook Air.
Oh, no.
So we will use this.
Okay.
Do you? Yes.
So for those who are working with professors that are having conferences or just need a form that's also attached to some sort of credit card payment, we work with Formidable and Nelnet for that. But as we work on transitioning, does anybody have just any general questions? Any more questions? Yes.
So I'm just wondering about, we got a great, 15, 20-minute intro to Qualtrics, but if some of us want more training or want to bring our colleagues in for a longer training, what other opportunities do we have?
I know there are occasional sessions offered through the Teaching Technology Collaborative. Oh, sure. I know there are occasional sessions offered through the Teaching and Technology Collaborative, and I think there's a couple during Enriching Scholarship in a couple weeks. teachtech.umich.edu is one, and I'll usually take a walk to see somebody. I don't mind. I love chances to get to Central Campus and North Campus. I'm on South Campus, so that's easy.
How does this thing work?
PC? Oh, no, laptop, yeah.
Screen said HDMI up there. Maybe that's just the way it's set up.
Yeah, I've never used this thing before with my own laptop. No, we're not.
Oh, it looks like there was one up here. Oh, that's for something else.
I know, that one doesn't actually connect to anything except for my side monitor.
I was just going to put a plug in for the Qualtrics web tutorials are really good as well. I've used a lot of those. And another use case I use Qualtrics for is I use it for a scholarship application because students can upload their resume or there's ability to upload files. I've used it for applications as well.
And we're all set. So without further ado, Jessica.
I'm also Jessica. Hi. Okay, so like other Jessica said, I'm talking about WordPress and Nelnet today. I just wanted to quickly go over what the WordPress service was in case you weren't familiar. So I'm with Web Services. We also offer AEM and do open text and all that. But this is another offer that we have where if you have a need for a website for a smaller event or research project, or if there's a faculty member that's in need of a website, our team offers that service and they're free. And it's through WordPress multi-site. These sites are hosted with LSA IT. Josh actually manages the infrastructure for these sites. The theme code for WordPress is shared amongst all the sites in the network. They're accessible, it's free, responsive, and they're LSA branded, and right now we have 4 to choose from. We have shared plugins in the network, including the Formidable plugin that I'll talk about a little bit that we use for form building and in connection with Nelnet. And we automatically update and back up the multi-site network, offer security. You log in with your unique name and Kerberos password into the sites to edit, and we monitor site speed and storage for you. I'll go through this at the end. I'll show you just the main WordPress site so that you're familiar with it. But on the main site, we have FAQ section, an example of all the themes, some of our policies, how-to videos, and other links. If you are a faculty, researcher, staff member, graduate student, you can use WordPress. You just have to have an LSA affiliation. So we have a variety of different site types. The one thing we cannot offer is course-related sites. So anything that needs a student to interact with the site or like blog or something like that, that goes through ISS, and they'll set those up. So most importantly, today we'll talk about like conference-type symposium sites where people need to enter a credit card for registration and go from there. So what we've done is Chris Rockwell, our developer, wrote a plugin for this WordPress network installation that connects a specific plugin form with Nelnet. Nelnet is the finance office merchant services credit card accepting platform. So you kind of work with them to create like your credit card merchant account. Once that's all approved, sometimes it takes like a little while to get through that process. Then you can have a WordPress website created for you. It could even be as simple as like a single page form if you don't want like a whole website associated with the conference. And then use our Nelnet plugin with the site to accept credit card payments. And they have very specific PCI compliance guidelines that we have to follow, and they were recently like enhanced to be more secure. So the network is following all of those guidelines and is secure. So we will work with you, create a website following our URL guidelines, and choose one of the themes. We have the pro version of the Formidable plugin installed, and I will just demonstrate what that looks like. It's pretty nice form builder, kind of like Qualtrics, not as nice as Qualtrics. But you can do all kinds of things in there. You can add conditional logic. You can have different types of questions, email triggers, all of that same kind of functionality that you might need. But most of the forms we do are pretty simple. So you get this account for merchant services, and they give you a test sandbox instance. So we set that up with your site, kind of password protect the page so that you can go in there and make sure everything's working. You can run their test credit cards through your website. Should be pretty simple. So after you're ready to go, we get this secret code, which is very secure. Plug that into a field within the form, and that activates it to then send results into your real Nelnet account. So that little part right there you have to be careful about. You don't want people to register with a test account. So it's important to make sure you're ready to launch and you don't have the test sandbox installed, but we help you with all that. So then a visitor to the site will complete the form, and there's just one field that's passed into Nelnet. It used to be that you could pass over a lot more data, like names and emails and things like that, but now it's just one number, the total, and that goes to a landing page of Nelnet, and then they confirm the amount and then enter Nelnet. So it's two separate systems here, WordPress into Nelnet. So the total's passed over, and then the visitor's within Nelnet, and they finish making their online credit card payment. At the end, as part of the PCI requirements, the department or Nelnet manager, whoever's doing the finances or the processing for the conference, reconciles the people who registered in WordPress with making sure they paid in Nelnet. Okay, so now we'll just kind of go through a couple active sites. This is an upcoming statistics workshop. This is the 2012 WordPress theme, and their registration's about to open, but they have actually built out a full conference site with speakers, abstracts, all of that. This is going to be, I'm logged in right now, so that's why you see that banner across the very top. This is going to be the registration page. So this is what it looks like live, and this is what a visitor would see. So you enter your information as if I was a real person. whoever's email is test@umich.edu. So you can obviously have different types of fields. This is just like a HTML text entry field. These are radio button choices, and each object is associated with an amount, so that's how you can make sure that your totaling at the end of the form is like accurate. So like I'll say I'm a non-student, I want lunch that day, but I don't want lunch this day, and it should add everything up for me in the total amount field at the bottom. I usually make those read-only so people can't like adjust their total that gets taken over into Nelnet. And then you can add whatever kind of language you want to this page. This, this site has specific information about entering Nelnet. Obviously, we're in test mode still, sandbox, blah, blah, blah. But this is that landing page that I was talking about where you kind of get like to view your amount, like the double entry into Nelnet. It's part of their plan. And then this is where you can go in and like test your card amount and everything. So this is the dashboard side of that site we were just on. This is the Formidable plugin, and I've just clicked into it to open it. So you have like different fields. You can drag over more options. You have a lot of like specific customizations you can add to the fields, and conditional logic. So we can build out these forms to look pretty much however you need it to and contain the right type of questions, and it's just a matter of like testing. But this whole process is pretty quick, and we will do this for you on our end. This is just an example of another registration form. And this is like a single page conference registration for International Institute. So they actually don't have like a site built out for this conference. It's just, they can be very basic. And we have about probably 30-ish conference sites we've done so far. There are over 300 sites in the WordPress network, so it's growing. And yeah. If you need a site, you can request one on the main WordPress site. Complete this needs analysis form. It's really short. This WordPress site list, if you also want to peruse it on sites.lsa.umich.edu, has a lot of like already launched sites listed. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the research and project sites. I should change that to say conferences, but this also includes a lot of other conference sites that have been launched. So you're welcome to check that out. Does anyone have any questions?
Is this free? Yep. The question one was, is this free? And yes, it is. Yes.
And I found free conference services that offers this at a much higher rate. That was really great. Changed my life.
Good.
Hi, is there any cost on the transaction that goes through? Like, does it take any money out? It does?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question for Dave Doyle at the finance office. He's like the usual guy. Oh. Yay.
Hi, I'm Veronica from the English Language Institute, and we use Nelnet. And what happens is that every month I get a statement that shows the charges, and it doesn't actually come out of the payment that people made. It is coming out of the account. So you have to be able to balance that. But it's a per transaction charge, and it's like cents per transaction. I don't think I've ever had one come in that's more than maybe $25 or $30 in a month.
How many transactions, though?
Well, in the summertime, we have a lot. Summertime's the only time that we use it, and I would say the maximum is probably 75 to 100.
Number of transactions. Yeah. Okay. You guys had a question over here that I saw. Oh.
Well, this is pretty specific, but we use Formidable to gather up people's contact information if they want to be on a mailing list. And as a person who works on the site, I end up getting all those notices, but they really should go to someone else. Is there a way to direct
Yeah.
things to different people?
So within the form, under settings, you have the same kind of like email trigger options that Qualtrics had that Britton went over. So upon form actions, you can change like who would get a notification email, send it, to whatever address you want, include whatever data you need. And we are usually always set up one to go as a confirmation email to whoever just registered too.
I had a general question. We use Nelnet for the Bear River Writers Conference, and we had probably a handful of people that were having trouble with Nelnet, and it was kind of difficult. I didn't know who to point them to for support.
Finance office, Dave
Okay.
Doyle.
Okay, is there like an email for that or a phone number?
Merchant services. Yeah, I mean, I actually have never even logged into a Nelnet account because this is all on our WordPress side. So it's two totally different systems, and we just have this plug-in connector that sends total results into another. But I would peruse this website for any specific Nelnet related questions because I honestly don't know the answer. Merchant services at umich.edu.
Any other questions? WordPress, Formidable, Nelnet.
Yep.
Qualtrics even.
Sorry, I just want to make sure I have this clear. So Formidable is like a survey thing that you use to get payment, which is done by Nelnet, and all of this is under WordPress sites.
Yeah.
Okay.
And not everybody uses it for a registration. Complet has an account where they have a form set up and you can purchase issues of this journal called Absinthe. So that's just one example of an ongoing use of this Nelnet and form plugin that we have. Most of the time it's people just want a registration form for their conference and it's open for, a couple of months and then it's closed and over.
Is the Formidable plugin available for .org sites? We have a older .org conference site.
You can install Formidable. Yeah, absolutely. We have the pro version. I can't remember how much it is. I feel like it's not terrible. But the Nelnet connecting plugin, in order to accept credit card payments through U of M, is only on our network installation.
Okay.
But Formidable is a great surveying plugin in general.
You're holding that just in case it's a Qualtrics.
Can you embed the plugin on an AEM page?
No.
Not at this time.
And I don't think at any time.
No, never. Never.
I think currently the system now does not handle iframes on AEM pages. Would that work?
No.
No. And part of it is the compliance, right?
Yeah, that would also just be confusing, I think, because then you'd have a WordPress form embedded into an AEM site going to a third-party Nelnet vendor. Just seems like I wouldn't do that. Yeah. Plus, I don't think it would work. But you can embed Google and Qualtrics forms in AEM.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you, Jessica.
Yeah, no problem.
Yay. All right, so before we go, I just want to mention, so for us, we are currently at 91 live sites on AEM. And we just want to say thank you to everybody, of our web editors, for your partnership, your patience, your questions, and your assistance through the transition. And as a thank you from the lead web editors group, we would like to host another Web Editors Award. So we are seeking nominations, and you'll see, I'll show you the link to the news today, and we'll post it on the Google Plus group, and we'll probably throw it in another newsletter. But we would like you to submit your favorite pages. We have 5 categories: best homepage, best use of third party, which should be fresh in your mind now, since we've had this one, best use of images, best video integration, and most inspiring. And on the link to the news article that has the form on it, it will have a little explanation, some guidance on, like what these are about. I mean, best homepage is kind of self-explanatory. But our main meeting is actually going to be not only the award ceremony for it, but our customer appreciation, just for us saying thank you for being patient with us, working with us, and helping us probably meet our goal of having everybody in the AEM system by the end of June. So, yes, Aaron Key, all the way in the corner.
Does that mean the dean's office is going to be moved over by June?
Yeah.
I'm in the dean's office.
Yeah. That is
That's an excellent question.
that is a good question. That's
Every
above
time
my-
I ask, it changes.
Yeah. I think it's July. Yeah, July 1st.
Okay.
So in terms of getting departments into AEM, that's kind of end of June is our like.
We look at the college site differently than department sites.
Gotcha. So we're special. Okay.
Because there's a lot more coding.
Thank you. So are those, can we only nominate people that are already in AEM?
Not necessarily. I mean, if there was an open text site that.
There are some where I'm like, you've done the best you can with open
Yeah,
text.
yeah. If that's the most.
All right. Thank you.
If that's like a most inspiring, that inspires you to be like, good job. You can definitely nominate those. So I mean, and that's why it's called web editors and not like AEM or CMS and whatnot. So whatever, either an open text site or AEM site that you feel hits any one of these categories, go ahead and nominate. And to nominate, if you go to our website, we have this lovely news item, which again gives some explanation and embeds a Qualtrics form for you to nominate. And so we're just asking for the name of the department and then the link to the page that you would like to nominate. Nominations begin today and will last until the 28th, which I think I forgot to put on there, and then voting will begin in May. And our little party will be May 19th, and location to be determined, so just be on the watch for that invitation. So again, this is a big thank you from us to you guys and to everybody who's watching on the streaming and who will be watching the recording later. Thank you. So I think Britton and Jessica will be hanging around at the end for any questions you may have, and try to stay dry as you go back to your offices. Thank you.